home, because these are terror groups. So we may see them revenge, but not revenging directly on the battlefront in Gaza. They may act as financiers to several terrorist groups internally here in Uganda. So we may see bombs resuming to be blown here internally in Uganda. So as a reciprocity of the UPDF deployment in Gaza. So you see, in 2005, the United Nations adopted the responsibility to protect. It is a doctrine of 2005. So under this doctrine, we see statehood as just not as a right, but as a responsibility. So whether these people in Gaza are stateless or not, whether they are in Israel or Palestine, well, it doesn't matter as long as they are humanity. So the responsibility to protect, the responsibility to protect is a core mandate of the entire humanity, like my professor said previously. So it is an entire duty call to the entire humanity to protect humanity wherever it is. That's why you see the Kenyan police is in Haiti maintaining law and order. You have seen those stories. So for Uganda to be in Gaza or engaging in some fierce disarmament battles, disarming people who are believed to be causing conflict, because terrorism, there is a global war against terrorism, so there is no compromise when dealing with terrorism. So it may happen because the dynamics of the conflict clearly show that it may happen. Okay. So, but as part of the peacekeeping mission, I don't think that Uganda will take part in the internal politics of Gaza, taking sides and all that, because it will attract in the external or global condemnation of the country. So we have had, the UPDF has had an internationally bad record in regards to protection of human rights and all that. We have seen, in fact, I'm writing a paper about, it is undergoing peer review, it is yet to be published. So it is about the UPDF involvement in civilian law enforcement. So the UPDF has had a bad record in regards to human rights issues. We have seen many within the borders of Uganda, or definitely here internally. Yeah. That's why we have seen many army generals being sanctioned by the same United States and the European Union. So that is visible. So if we are to go to Gaza, we expect
the US and the EU are sponsoring a genocide in Gaza. So Uganda's security issues at home or violations are not as great.
So I guess what is trying to be brought out by Richard here is Ugandans' perspective of the UPDF that they know and the UPDF that is being sent on this peacekeeping mission. Are those two different UPDFs?
The UPDF is the same, but here you are going to an internationally viewed conflict, where you have to respect utmost fundamental human rights. The UPDF is not supposed to arrest people, the military, to arrest civilians and all that. So we are yet to see that in Gaza.
Yeah.
So we are yet to see criticisms or the positive energy the UPDF brings in the conflict, as opposed to the internal.
How people are reacting to this information ground is quite different, and they're asking themselves that very same question of the UPDF we know and the one that is going. What is the difference between those UPDFs, and how can it settle in people's hearts that they are actually able to deliver on the international commission that is being placed upon their shoulders?
Yeah. That is an interesting question, and I think that's a debate that is going to hold for quite a long time. Just like I tried to point out, that it is, I think, in my view, too soon, to try and read deep into this suggested mission. First of all, by the way, this mission, I dare I dare predict that probably I don't see our forces take off from here probably until after another 1 or 2 years. Why am I saying this? They are headed for a theater that is already rife with problems. They are both structural and they are going to face both structural and tactical issues. So it makes it difficult to discuss some of these things. Look, like for instance, on the floor of Parliament, we, the ordinary people, expected that our legislators were going to raise quite a couple of questions. One argument that the minister put forward, and rightfully so, because that is about what the UPDF can claim credence for, is that they have been in a couple of theaters, Somalia being the longest. They have put up quite a brave stature in Somalia. If you are to compare it with the frustrated UN peacekeeping mission that folded up in 2005, and it took another 2 years because the UPDF then went to Somalia in 2007. So peacekeeping, peace enforcement, peace protection are first of all different things, given its theoretical conceptions, given the way the UN defines them. So what exactly we are going for is not yet even known. We are actually, yes, the name says stabilization force, but I'll tell you, for instance, there is no central authority, so to speak about. You see, I was not surprised by Netanyahu's, or as they fondly call him, Bibi, his pronouncements yesterday. He's under enormous political pressure. Even him, up to now, he cannot say with finality that the war against Gaza was won by Israel. Because the main objective of that war, you know, what they call mission statement for fighting forces, was that they were going to, you know, downgrade, destroy, you know, and take control over Gaza. But you see that the territory we are talking about, we are only talking about Gaza. But there is the Golan Heights, there is the West Bank, and this mission, particularly the peace deal framework designed by Trump, the central theme is an attempt to depoliticize the political notions of, let's call it Palestine, so to speak. So there is a clear disfranchisement over the years. They have tried to delink or decouple the West Bank from Gaza. Gaza seen as the more notorious section. The structure of this intervention or peace intervention, if you look at the governance element, it's divided into three. There is the most apex, or the board, which is basically Trump and some selected states. And he's basically selected states like Venezuela, Indonesia, not particularly significant players in global politics. And that's not a surprise, because he's looking for people who toe his line. When it comes to the actual governance, they have tacitly co-opted a 15-member team from the Palestinian politicians. But they are largely moderates, because these had to be approved by Palestine. So the point I'm trying to make is that home here, once this issue was in Parliament, we expected some really thorough debate. One, for instance, who is going to fund this mission? Definitely there is a cost to us. What is the extent of that cost? You know? Yeah, that is on paper. That's why I'm saying that the whole issue...
As of February, America already provided $10 billion to this. UAE and Saudi Arabia are also providing money. So there is no cost to Uganda financially.
No, well, that is one reading. But there are so many examples to look at and to learn that peace missions are not a straitjacket affair. I mean, look at Somalia right now, after 20 years. The actual objective has never been achieved. Two, one of the biggest challenges it's facing now is finance. We also must, you know, we shouldn't only look at this peace mission in a singular model. Interpretatively, we need to look at other variables. For instance, one, Europe has largely decided to remain silent out of this thing. Two, most of Europe, we know that politically, the more right politicians or center-right politicians are taking over governance. And what they are trying to do is that in their approach to global politics is that they are looking inward. So most of the money, the intention is to keep money in their states. It's not surprising that you know, the whole array of deployments in Somalia, Amazon, don't know what, they keep changing names, has run out of money. There has been a conference here just last week, you know, trying to transition to the regional force and all that. So for me, the issue here is that the reading amongst people is that the debate in Parliament was rather lukewarm. It failed to ask the most serious questions.
And what would have been the most serious question for you?
Okay, there are many, but I'll take like three important things. One is the issue of cost. Two is the question of the unpredictable theater. I have told you that one unique thing about Palestine, you see, Somalia was about a state that could not hold in the center. The issue in Gaza or Palestine as per se has a huge element of sovereignty. Okay. It has an issue of self-determination.
The third question?
Are two different. The third one is the architecture that has been put. This architecture does not answer many questions. You know, it doesn't answer many questions, and I can firmly predict that as this operation goes for 2, 3, 4 years, many components of this element would have fallen apart. Gaza, given the economic centrality in this debate, you'll find that it will split into two. And like Richard was saying, it will not be surprising that within East Africa and the Horn, we probably will begin to see more radicalized activities in the region.
All right.
Those are some of the repercussions.
Those are some of the potential repercussions. Coming back to you, Chizito, when we're looking to international relations, we're looking to security defense, Uganda is not unique to this request. United States and particularly President Trump has reached out to other states, has reached out to the European Union countries, he has reached out to France, Norway, Sweden, and they all decided not to be part and parcel of this. Several major nations, regional entities have explicitly declined and they've also distanced themselves from this war particularly. So when it comes to the American connection for us as a country, is this part of the much bigger American geopolitical strategy?
Certainly. I struggle
because
to know.
We are not bigger than Norway, we're not bigger than France, Sweden. So
yeah, and I don't envy those countries much that I feel their decision to keep out of the board of peace or out of this international stabilization Gaza peace process is a problem because they are financiers of Israel's genocide in Gaza. So they are not like some holy actors we should be saying, oh, they refuse to join. They are not neutral. They have been on the side of the oppressor in this conflict. Now, I struggle to understand whether it is Uganda that is playing politics or if it's the US, but I want to believe it's Uganda because as early as 2024 when this conflict, it started in October 2023 with the attack of Hamas, but from about 2024, Uganda's Chief of Defense Forces has been consistent on saying Uganda should deploy in Gaza. So when officially, in official government communications, President Donald Trump reached out to President Museveni, according to the Minister of Security, Chirachwanuka, asking him to deploy. But this request comes after we have seen Uganda, the Minister of Defense. Yeah. It has come after we've seen Uganda actually offer to deploy. So it could be Uganda playing its geopolitics with the West, or specifically with the US, which it has had some problems with in terms of our human rights record in the recent years since 2021. So it is certainly Uganda that is trying. You know, I do not think that we are going to stay in Somalia. The African armies came to Kampala recently to discuss funding, African funding for the mission to keep there, but I don't think that we shall raise the funds. So if Uganda has to sustain a budget from the US, it has to be relevant to the US in terms of another conflict, because Uganda is irrelevant to the global economy in so many ways.
That makes us relevant.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. I'm not advocating for it. I'm explaining it that you are not a manufacturer of chips like Taiwan. Of all the things
that we have as resources, conflict is one that would be best positioning us to have.
I'm not saying it should. I'm not saying it should. I'm explaining to you why it is what Museveni is an expert on violence and the military. If there is one resource he has built, it is his military. The military has been in South Sudan. It has consolidated the government there. If UPDF came out of South Sudan, there would be no country there. It is in DRC, it is Central African Republic. It has been in Somalia. So Uganda's most efficient tool of global bargain is its military forces. So us deploying in Gaza is one way of saying, look here, we are capable of contributing to global peace. And I do not think that, I do not have the imagination that it takes us to solve this conflict. Whatever effort is taken is part of the broader effort that will maybe bring peace to Palestine and Israel. Of course,
this is in light of the fact that previously when Donald Trump has reached out to other nations such as Sweden and they declined, there was repercussions to them. You have him reaching out to Canada and them declining, there were repercussions to that. And many other nations that have had to put, exactly. So when you say that for us, this is the best bargaining chip that we have as a country, to what end is it a bargaining chip for us as a country? And is it to country or is it to security? Yes, Richard.
To begin from there, you see there is what we call smart power in international relations. You see here it involves the use of combined soft and hard power. So you get smart power. So under smart power, there is what we call shuttle diplomacy. So Uganda is just from a contested election where opposition actors were arrested, in prison, some of them tortured. So we read that on international scene. So the UPDF has been under the UN condemnation for violating the UN arms embargo in South Sudan. So we read that in international media. So there is what we call shuttle diplomacy. Shuttle diplomacy occurs where two parties take part in quiet talks. Quiet talks that when you do for me this, I will do for you this. When you do X, I will do Y. So we call that shuttle diplomacy. So it is quite similar to back channel diplomacy, but back channel diplomacy is where one party is not willing to engage with the other. But here we see these parties have been quietly engaging each other. So that is called shadow diplomacy. So depending on the dilemmas surrounding the country, from internal political, from the internal political atmosphere to the external foreign policy dilemma in South Sudan, where we are seeing reports of the UPDF being linked in Congo, gold smuggling in Congo, all those reports. So all those forced Uganda to agree to this deal, although we don't have any strategic national interest in Gaza. We don't have any strategic national interest we are going to protect in Gaza, and it is an uncertain theater, like the professor said. We may lose. You see, some countries like the United States.
Are there certain military war zones where you enter war zone and you're like, well, I know what's going to come out of this? It's never certain.
Definitely, under peacekeeping missions, you are very certain the entire goal is peace, peacekeeping. So, but in Gaza, we are seeing that we are dealing with dishonest partners. We are reading statements from Netanyahu saying the contrary. Israel want to withdraw from Gaza. So we are dealing with dishonest partners. Okay. So, like Professor said,
on the other side,
the entire mission may be futile.
What do we as a country have to gain from participating in this peace mission?
Well, there are direct and indirect benefits, because under this deal we may see for a lot of foreign aid, some foreign aid coming in. We may see even these military adventures or expeditions. We'll see the UPDF modernize its artillery, because I believe we are relying on old model technology, but we are going to a zone that has been combated by drones, those airstrikes and whatever. So it will give an opportunity for the UPDF to modernize its artillery and armory. So we may see there are some officials who have been targeted for sanctions. Okay. There have been pending sanctions. So under shadow diplomacy, when you do X, the Americans will do Y. So we may see a pause to those sanctions and international condemnations for what is going on in Uganda. So it is also a deliberate move to divert the international community from what is going on in Uganda. We are seeing the military arresting civilians, which is a direct normalization of the UPDF in internal law enforcement.
So what I'm hearing from you, Richard, is that the direct and indirect gains for us as a country, one is military, artillery improvement.
Definitely.
And diplomatic access. I hear you saying something around the political goodwill, both you and Chizito, economic opportunities and things like that. But
mostly a moral responsibility to have peace in Gaza.
The moral responsibility to have
I think as human
Gaza
beings, any country in the world has a responsibility to see peace in. 92% of houses in Gaza have been shelled down. If you invade a place that has almost 2 million people and destroy 92% of their housing, these people are living in tents.
Okay, so from the benefits that have been mentioned directly and indirectly, Dr. Tulit, what does Washington stand to gain from this arrangement with Uganda?
Well, that question is a problematic one, and you can see that both the ordinary people outside there and even us here are struggling with it. But of course, there are few things that one can put their hands on. I mean, let us put Trump at the center of this. Trump is faced with midterm elections. Trump is not coming up on the next ballot. The Democrats that seem to have suffered quite severely under Trump's victory in the last American elections seem to be, interestingly, pulling up and gaining ground. So what am I saying? That this is politics. This is really politics. And I appreciate what my my young colleague Kizito is trying to put across. But I just want to urge him to try and understand a little more that the global politics is probably more chaotic than you would want to see it in the lens of, you know, either realism thought or liberalism. I think the only way that you can look at this issue and try to understand it clearly is probably to fall to the third tier of theoretical thinking, which is critical thinking. That the world, it's a man, each man's society. We have seen Trump's approaches to deals. Even this particular deal we're talking about, at least from what I read from the press, the full detail of this deal was not availed to Parliament, even at the time of discussing it. Some people are actually saying the debate was too short, and probably the mandate was passed in haste. However, the beautiful thing about this particular mission is that I think for once, I could be wrong, but I think this is the first time that the UPDF intends to deploy outside the country and has gone to Parliament, you know, to seek permission before it has done so. Many other deployments have come under controversy. So at least this is a beautiful thing in the realm of rule of law, and we need to commend the UPDF leadership, the Minister of Defense for this. And this is happening at such a time, like Richard was explaining, that Uganda is taking such a beating in the international press, in the local press, over issues of human rights and all. So in terms of military diplomacy, Uganda wants to make face. And they want to pick up from their credentials in Somalia, in Sudan, to buttress this. But of course, I'll warn that every peacekeeping mission is completely different from the other. So I don't think the experience of Somalia will necessarily count. That is one. Then two, so for Washington, Trump already took a gamble with Netanyahu, and I don't think he wants to be seen to be falling back. Actually, I'm going to spend most of today trying to wait to hear what Trump will say after Netanyahu's, very strong statement yesterday in rejecting this peace deal. And like I was telling you that this is a very unpredictable theater, is that at the same time, Israel is saying no to this, and Netanyahu has said no, but Hamas is lauding Trump and is pushing. So there is a devil in the detail. And just how we can place our hand to this devil is going to be a matter of time.
Okay, the devil in the detail there you have made mention of. Let's look at it from a bigger spectrum. You made mention that the experience that UPDF has with Somalia cannot in any way amount to what they will be experiencing. It counts, but it cannot be measured up to what is being asked of them right now. So in that case, in as much as you cannot compare Somalia to what is ahead for them, and the volatility and the fragile situation that you've framed for us, is this one where the UPDF is trying to upgrade itself as a global security partner?
My explanation is that maybe I would say our success in the DRC doesn't count in Gaza, because the counterinsurgency in the DRC is in forests and all that. In Somalia, we actually confronted a battleground where you're having urban warfare in an urban place. You have snipers in buildings. You literally have to crash tankers into buildings for you to gain access. Then that's how you can start a fight with Al-Shabaab in the buildings, because if you deploy in the streets, they're going to shoot you down. Now, Gaza is a similar conflict war zone. Of course, it has been shelled to the ground. I said earlier that 92% of housing there has been destroyed. But there are some terrorist organizations there, and some of them sponsored by Israel, that are operating. So I think the urban warfare that the UPDF has fought in Somalia...
Which is some of those sponsored by Israel?
I may not have the names offhand, but there are about three military organizations.
So if you don't have the names offhand, then how do you say that they're being
No,
sponsored by Israel?
all knowledge shouldn't come offhand. I can Google for you and read for you the units that Israel is sponsoring there. And of course, it's not just, there is the Palestinian Islamic Jihad.
Let me turn to you, Richard. We do have other states that have stronger stance as far as security aid is concerned. Nearest is Jordan. You do have Egypt. You do have Saudi Arabia. On the list, actually, that is going to comprise of that peacekeeping mission, I think one of the best experienced would be Morocco on that list. But there's Turkey. So these are countries that are geopolitically well positioned, even culture-wise, they're more positioned for the call to action right now from Donald Trump than a country from East Africa. So what makes Uganda unique in this case?
So you see, first, the Parliament of Uganda made a narrow debated. You see, the motion going into Parliament was just to formalize. It was a deliberate attempt to formalize. Because honestly, as a country, we don't have any strategic national interest in the Middle East or in Gaza. So maybe we could be having some in Saudi Arabia because we have citizens there working as housemaids and all that. So we have
citizens in hundreds.
Yes, we have in national interest there. But in Gaza, I don't think.
Don't you want to see the genocide in Gaza?
Let him finish his question.
You see, Uganda will not solve the genocide because it has parties that are causing the genocide. So as long as we are still dealing with dishonest parties, the genocide will continue. So the country has no strategic national interest in Gaza. So these countries, the ones you mentioned, Egypt, Jordan, and whatever, they assess their strategic national interests to align with their objectives. So they don't just deploy troops because they want foreign fundings or they want to appease anybody or any actor on the international scene. So for Uganda, I have told you the dynamics that could have forced President Museveni or the government to act or to react by agreeing to these offers of deploying UPDF troops in Gaza. So back to the humanitarian view, I believe that the dynamics in the conflict are not yet in favor of the peacekeeping mission, and yes, the forces may go, but we may see a lot of controversies after the deployment because it is just a day after the Parliament passed. It is just a few days after Parliament passed the UPDF deployment in Gaza, but we are seeing retrospective statements from Netanyahu. It means the parties to the conflict are not genuine, and the moment these parties are not genuine, the ceasefire is just a proxy, is a lie, is a hoax.
You've gotten those groups?
Yes, so Israel is sponsoring the Popular Forces, formerly counterterrorism agency funded by Yasser Abu Shabab. It's also sponsoring the Popular Army Northern Forces, led by Ashraf al-Mansi. It's also supporting the counterterrorism strike force called Al-Astal Armed Clan, formed in mid-2025. It's also supporting the Shujaiya Popular Defense Forces. It's also supporting the Dogmosh clan. It's also supporting the Al-Majahida clan. Okay. So there are so many people, so many groups that are fighting there, not just Hamas.
But the case of Gaza involves Israel, who we have good relations with. There's Palestine on the other side. There's the Iran wider regional influence. There's the Hezbollah broader regional context. You also do have the United States. You have Egypt. You have the Arab states in there that you have to put into consideration, and a highly sophisticated military from Israeli side. So are we overestimating our transferability of the experience we've had in Somalia and the other places you mentioned of Uganda's peacekeeping experience?
Yeah, certainly we have some experience, but I'm also not saying that we are so great, we are so good. This is also a mission for us to learn and to also acquire better skills, because we need to look at these conflicts as almost eternal. So when discussing the conflict, I don't want to say, oh, we are so good, we are going to go there, make peace and come back home victorious. Of course, some of the kind of missions of security stabilization in the past have worked. East Timor, when it had conflicts with Indonesia, NATO sent their force, it pacified, disarmed the fighting factions, guaranteed a peace. Kosovo in 1995, Bosnia and Herzegovina, these countries have been pacified by such forces. So there is hope that if you have an exit plan where you can guarantee a local authority to administer the territory after you've secured peace, it could hold. It's also possible that it might not work. What I want to dissuade us from is to say, oh, it will not work, so we shouldn't go there. I think that is defeatist, because nothing in life is guaranteed. So
in short, what Chizito is saying, that a coin has two sides. And so both sides are actually very important to that coin having the value that it holds. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being part and parcel of this discussion. Richard Byamukama, commentator on security and defense. We also had Nanda Chizito Seruwaji, international relations expert, as well as Dr. Charles Tolit, who is a security analyst, bringing into perspective the elements that were not well digested, especially when this was presented to Parliament, and what the other considerations are. At the end of the day, UPDF, without a doubt, has experience in difficult missions, but Gaza may actually test something much bigger than the military capability that has been spoken of. It will test Uganda's diplomacy, it will test our alliances, it will test our rules of engagement, and ultimately our understanding of what it means to be a peacekeeping force in a conflict where the meaning of peace itself is actually being contested as we speak. Speaking of contestation as we speak right now, you do have a very interesting situation where there's been a breakdown of Trump, Israel, and the rejection of the 15 points of peacekeeping that had been presented by Trump. Those have been rejected by Israel. So it's something that had been mentioned here, that it's a fragile situation of engagement for the side of a peacekeeping mission at which the UPDF would be part and parcel of. As we conclude this conversation in studio, we're being joined by my colleague Stephen Bide, who is back on ground.